Welcome back to the last class of the quarter. One of the things that I just want to touch base on, and we've spent some good amount of time just going over the important concepts in Java. There is one last concept that I would like to touch on and make sure that we cover correctly. If you guys remember that class where we did the linked list, in that class, let's assume that that's something that we wrote for a client or the company. And the CEO comes in and says, "Oh, that linked list, that was amazing. All the names and all those things that you wrote works great. Our customers love it. But I was wondering if you could write it so that it works with a date object." And then you go in, and actually let's maybe use a diagram. So let's assume that you go ahead and you had your linked list code. Let's represent it with the. So we had this, and it has strings in the middle as the values. So let's assume that you would then now copy and paste the code and did a search and replace and made a date object. And then 6 months go by and they tell you, "Oh, remember that linked list that you wrote for the dates? Well, it's easy, right? Let's just add another data type." So we add another data type, and I don't know, let's use now a connection, another object, and so on. You cannot be just repeating and having the same code base, because guess what? One day somebody finds a bug in here, and you have to go back to all the other copies of the code that you had, and you might miss one, and that's unsustainable. This is not really the way to do it. So the way to do it in a better way is that if you have the same object but you just want multiple support of things, then you go into generics. That the generics help us to redefine an object that we have already created. And let's just maybe grab the linked list from our projects. And in the linked list that we have here, we can essentially use these brackets that you probably have seen in if we open up Chrome and we go into a hash table, Java API. And if we go into the hash table, we probably are going to see that we have these things. And what those things mean is that this is a generic object. And a generic is basically the capacity of Java to do live search and replace in the code with different flexible types of objects. So for example, if I went and did this, I'm going to just name it replace me, but this is the name of the variable that will be replaced all over the place. It's defining a data type that it's going to be replaced. So for example, the value, I can just call it replace me, and even this add could be the value. So now my linked list, if I want to make it a string linked list, I could do like that. My linked list string. And the beauty of this, actually, sorry, this goes down here in the declaration of the type. And the beauty of this is that you can start even saying a linked list now of dates. So let's just make it, add it as a date. And then we're going to do another date in here. And we're going to call it the linked list too. So if into this linked list code that would have been working on the other linked list, so for example, if I do add and I want to add a string, it will complain because it's saying that is going to be waiting for a date object. So it did that live search and replace on the spot, but I can technically do new date like this. New date. I had the wrong type of data object. That's why I was complaining. It's always check out that when you're dealing with time, it's Java util date rather than Java SQL date. That's a different for a different purpose. Anyway, So what this thing is doing, it's replacing this value all over where it finds it, where it's its parameters, with whatever value that you pass during creation. And you can, and the nice thing is that you can always extend, like replace to, and I can add another value here calling it replace to replace. So whenever I create a new object, I can do like new string date, and then this guy could be like integer. There's different ways of utilizing this, but this is really useful when you're trying to not have to write the same code multiple times. So now when we look at this, at the documentation, and we see that, let me make this bigger, that we have a hash table with a K and a V, means key and value. It is basically telling us that, for example, if we do string and integer, it's pointing a string and then an integer, a key and a value in the hash table. This I find it like super useful because you can leave an object, or you can even limit. This is another cool thing. You can even say that number, for example, you can limit the classes that you will be able to receive. Now, these guys, even if I put string, it's going to be wrong because it's expecting a list of integers or numbers, or so I can put like float, and then this guy would be float. And the reason is because this extends number really limits it. Now, one thing to really watch out for with generics is that it only takes objects. It doesn't take primitives. Things like this just allows you to like make sure that the integrity of the data that you're storing, the integrity of the code, remains untouched. You know, like in this case, actually, it's complaining because it's probably like expecting something like that. But now our linked list is a float linked list, you know, and we just use that extends number in the parameter to replace. Again, this is a live search and replace. When we are saying that it's going to be float, at the construction time of the object, it's going to go and look for this parameter, replace me, everywhere where it exists, and it's going to treat it live with whatever data type that you pass here, whatever object type that you pass here. So this is just a very simple concept, but it's really, really, really powerful. And languages, definitely something that, for example, I don't think Python has. I haven't found it there. Other languages like JavaScript definitely doesn't have it. This is where the typing, I mean, languages like Python don't have it because they're dynamically typed. So it's essentially like effectively like everything is an object. But this just allows us to have like a little bit more consistency in the overall code. And yeah, this is the last concept to teach. Honestly, usually in the classroom, what we do is that we start allocating some time for answering questions and answers about the final project, and to try to like get everybody to get it to work. I hope you guys found this useful, and this has been a good learning experience for everybody. I'll see you guys